Hey everyone, welcome to episodes 8 of The Start is Near podcast. We started in early December. We do this every week. If you want to join our meetings, go to radish.org and look for the top Zoom link there for the block party, Collective Intelligence Block Party. I'm going to pass the mic and let everyone introduce themselves either up front or as part of your first opening comments, however you want to do it. Passing the feather and welcome everyone.
Well, if I may, as unofficial master of ceremonies, Stanley, can I put you on the
Yeah,
spot after last night and continue where you introduced yourself yesterday?
I'm not sure what you just said, but I'll take on whatever you want me to do. I
I'm
mean,
sorry, I
less.
don't know if if you can hear me all right. I would just reintroduce yourself for the recording, kind of
Okay.
in line of what we talked about last night. But yeah, thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm Stan Pockris, and I'm in Philadelphia, and I publish the local wiki called Wikidelphia, which is now about 12, 15 years old. I'm not sure. And the one cost of my world that my wife supports. Um, I have an employee that helps to manage Wikidelphia, and it's been delightful. He and I have been sort of working together for over 30 years, and to have him taking care of that aspect of my inventions um, makes it possible for me not have to worry about it. After Wikidelphia, I started thinking Wikidelphia is a collection of websites and documents and people from the Philadelphia region, and it started getting out of hand when I started hanging out with people like Jim Garrison and those folks from Humanity Rising, and I was meeting all these people from the rest of the world, and how do I fit Jamin and Marco and Jack and Mike, who I don't really know how he would fit into Wikidelphia either. And so it occurred to me that I needed to go back to my roots. And in 1980 or thereabouts, my friend Seth and I decided that talking about networking was nice, but we were doing research about networks of people. And we decided that what we needed to do at that point was to publish a newsletter. So we created what we called Other Networks Newsletter. And it was a paper newsletter. And in the first few issues of it were done on a typewriter and then sent to a photo offset place. And they would make copies for us. And we would mail those copies to people that we met around the country and around the world a little bit. But that survived for almost 10 years. It published 8 issues of Other Networks newsletter, and its subtitle was The Newsletter About Networks of People. And we were covering what became the infancy of the internet and the global networks. Uh, the beginning of our coverage started with paper-based conferencing in which people could sign up to be part of a correspondence group that would happen once a month through the mail.
Um,
And
I,
they could mail
I'm
their,
I'm vastly intrigued. Mike has a question. I just wanted to make sure you saw his hand was up. Passing the feather back, Stan.
okay, I don't see that tiny little hand. Okay.
Take your time, Stanley. I will interject if I have to. I'm known as the conscientious interrupter, let's say, or something like that. But keep
Okay.
going, and then I'll pass it to Jack when you're ready.
Okay. So that was one of the things that we were covering. I had somebody come from Colorado to show up in my house and say, I'm going to write an article about amateur press associations. And I said, well, okay, what's that? And he described what they were, which is these correspondence groups that actually started when people who owned their own printing presses decided to send their remarks to a collator who would put together little booklets of their writings and send that out to people around the world. And in the Middle Ages, in 1980s, 1920s or 30s, the science fiction community started using this technique to talk to itself. And they continued to use the Amateur Press Association moniker for that work, I believe. And then it was picked up by a bunch of other different kinds of people, and we started defining it. Robert Theobald was publishing some of these monthly journals, and we would go to conferences together, like the Association for Humanistic Psychology, which happened once a year. And after a couple of years of running correspondence groups between meetings, it became a natural thing. So the World Future Society was one of the places that I attended, and I would start paper conferences for these people as well. So that when they came back to the conference for the next year, they didn't get totally lost from who is who, because we had this correspondence amongst ourselves.
If you want to take a moment, Stanley, I do have a question to ask
Go
you,
ahead.
but I also would like
Please,
to
go ahead.
well, just before, if I may, Jack, do you want to do a version of that, or I can do a version of that, or Marco or Jamin and I can do the same thing, just because this is your first time too, Jack, but yeah. You're on mute, my friend. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, you can go ahead and do it. I can do it a little bit later, or I can do it now if you prefer.
Just go for it, Jack. Let's see. We're spilling a mess here. Don't worry. We're a platypus.
All right. Well, I liked what Stan was saying. That's a good history. That was a good background history for you, and I appreciate that. Well, I started what I call the New Paradigm Project back in 1974, which is almost 50 years ago. And the idea, like I understood, back then that the world that we were living in was a little bit too far gone, or too much in the hands of the people we don't want it in, for there to be any kind of success at trying to fix it. Something that the next system people from the Democracy Collaborative came up with just a couple, 2-3 years ago, and agreed with that. And that was, some pretty high level people that were thinking along those lines. So it wasn't just some crackpot coming out there that, no, this can't be fixed. And of course, my activist friends were saying, Jack, the system isn't broken. It's working just fine for the people who put it together and run it. But anyway, so I've been kind of looking at that and came up with the idea back then that what we really needed to do is build an alternative to the current system. And it had, for some reason, while I haven't been able to attract a whole lot of people to that way of looking at things, a lot of people said, well, great idea, Jack, but then they weren't ready to jump in. So I'm kind of happy that in the last several years, it's starting to get more and more people are starting to look at that. So right now, so what I did is after I tried to push my New Paradigm Project and it wasn't going where I wanted it to go, it wasn't going as far, I decided I'd hook up with a larger organization to have a kind of a platform to continue the same work, but a platform that had a bigger audience. So I became a volunteer with We the World. And that's not exactly the organization that is doing kind of what I would like to do. They're doing a lot of good stuff, but not really building the alternative, but it is a platform. And so I'm using that. And basically, yeah, still, I live in Tucson, Arizona, and I've been an activist for over 40 years. And I'm really trying to get focused on how we put together the alternative reality that we want to live in. And that's where, I guess, Dan mentioned to Jamin or whoever else was there last night that I keep talking about this. We need to get organized. And I think that this group here might be a good starting point, because my thing is that if we want to get all the people who are in the movement to create a world that works for all, organized and collaborative and coordinated and all that, we need a core group whose basic focus is to keep all the people who are interested in this happening on the same page. And then to do that, of course, you got to build a lot of databases. And so it's really sweet.
When
to
you're
have,
ready, Jack, I will raise my hand on that. But when you're ready,
Huh?
I said when you're ready, I'll raise my hand on that. But I just letting you know that when you're ready, I'll ask a question. But keep going.
Okay, and I'm about done here. I don't know if I need to say anything more or not. 'Cause I think all but you, Mike, here are people that kind of know me already.
No, understood. That's great. And this is kind of, I have to not have to. I enjoy this very much, especially with Jamin and Marco. But I'm 35. My role here kind of is asking. I guess there's three parts to it. It's I'm genuinely interested in these conversations, and it's an honor and a privilege to meet you and Stanley. And it was amazing to meet Jamin and Marco, but we've been fast friends, or at least I hope so. Yeah, I see. Okay, thank you, Jamin. Yeah. But as I had the privilege before of interviewing some of my favorite authors in the Canadian science fiction fantasy, and those recordings are out there for posterity. But so, yeah, I kind of try and play the role of both passing the flow back and forth, but also asking questions. I genuinely am interested. Like I don't like moderators who raise their hand and ask only their questions, right? You want to give the audience a chance, and you want to give, people are going to listen to this at one point. Jack, you're already famous, and Stanley, welcome back to the spotlight or whatever. But so those are the three parts. I'm trying to help the flow. I'm trying to also ask questions that I would like to ask, but for the most part, we are also just saying these things for posterity. So yeah, thank you, Jack, so much, and I apologize for that long-winded diatribe there, whatever. Jamin, do you want to go before I ask Stanley and Jack the questions I had?
Sure. I'd just love to highlight a couple of things. First of all, the pioneering work that both of you gentlemen have done, Stanley and Jack, is absolutely crucial to what we're taking on right now, because we're on the cusp of the next big paradigm shift. And you guys have decades of work and experience and leadership shifting the paradigm and pioneering new media and pioneering an alternate reality, et cetera. And so, a couple principles come to mind. I'll just call this one principle number one, because I think it's time that we set down our principles. Even if we don't necessarily unanimously agree on every principle or what should be in or what should be out, it doesn't matter. It's the process that matters in capturing all this. So I would say principle number one is alternative system, alternative reality. And this is straight out of Buckminster Fuller. Don't try to, topple the existing system, reality, totalitarian regime, et cetera. Just create an alternative one that works better, that makes the previous one obsolete. So alternative is the first principle. The second principle is that this...
Bucky Fuller.
Jamin, yeah, no, of course, Jack. Jamin, take your time, please. Low and slow for the audience. Remember, for history,
okay.
From posterity. Yeah. You're excited, and I love it, but yeah, low and slow, my friend.
By the way, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can vary the speed, 3/4 speed, half speed. So if it's ever too fast for you, and I've literally done that, like for the Archive Sanity video, which we'll watch at some point, I slow it down. Anyway, but point taken, and thank you. The second principle is that it all starts with conversation. And I'm going to give a real world example that illuminates the point. Arco Santi. We all know about Arco Santi, just like it sounds. Look it up if you don't know about it. Ends with an I. And it's in Arizona. And there they cast stuff in concrete first, and then scratched their heads and figured out what they had screwed up. Imagine that they had actually started with conversations, deep conversations, collective human superintelligence. They would have designed an impeccable Arco Santi, and they wouldn't have had to start tearing up concrete and saying, "Oh crap, I wish we'd cast this concrete differently." Something that I have direct experience with back to the age of 16, when I was building latrines in central Mexico in the summers and winters as a kid, as a teenager. And we literally, on my first project, cast a whole bunch of stuff in concrete that was wrong. So start with collective human superintelligence and then cast the damn concrete, at a much later stage. And that could be 7 stages later as we get more and more sophisticated. I think we're going to develop distinctions. And I think these principles are among the first that we should throw down. Anyway, just wanted to acknowledge the heck and love the heck out of you, all of you gentlemen. And my goodness, what a blessing, passing the feather.
So if I may, Stanley, I was going to ask about before, and it's beautiful how you all weave this together. Thank you. So we started with like printing presses and pamphlets, or cuneiform, or whatever we want to say that way, or whatever. And I'm starting to understand that you and Jack probably have an overlap here, so you can maybe both speak to it, take turns or something. But Stanley, how do you think, my mom was actually just saying this morning about, or we were talking, it won't be like what phone you buy, it'll be what personal AI you have or something. But that to me just looks like the evolution of a pamphlet, of a printing press, right? Of how we have communicated coherently and networked and that capacity. If you want to speak to that and then pass it to Jack, but go ahead, Stanley, please.
Well, I mean, I appreciate what Jamin was saying about conversations. And my comments this morning, I mean, I was in another group. I run a conversation group myself. Well, I host it technically, and I have Shannon as the facilitator for most of it. But we were talking about this sort of stuff, and it occurred to me that what we were talking about is the next governance process for the globe. And we don't want to have, a United Nations kind of governance structure, or a constitutional republic, or whatever. We want people to be.
I like this better than Davos, Stanley, but thank you so much. Go on. Sorry, I'm just making a bad joke.
Okay. Yeah, I don't get that joke, so okay.
Oh, Davos is like the WEF meeting or whatever that just happened last week,
Yeah,
whatever.
it was a
I
mess,
prefer this
yeah.
to that. Yeah. Anyways,
Right.
go on.
Well,
Go on.
the idea is that people speaking to each other and coming to enough of a agreement so that they don't want to burn each other's house down will allow us to structure our communities in ways that will allow the communities and the people to fluidly work together without too much friction. I mean, and that's been a problem of human civilization. It's always somebody that wants something different and wants to insist on it. So it's the ability to agree that we're going to agree to disagree if that's needed, and be able to interact with the local group that we might be in, and have that local group be able to be part of other local groups. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with the strength of weak ties. It's a concept in sociology. You're familiar with that? Good.
I used to study at Stanley, but we can talk about that later. Keep going.
Okay,
You're on
yeah.
it. Yeah.
I have a favorite little 3-minute video about the strength of weak ties that I should like to show people who don't know anything about it. But that and Ashby's law are things that are principles that I have been watching for many years, and I have much of that stuff in my original
Can you
website.
explain Ashby's law, Stanley, very well, as quickly as you like, but
Yeah. You can't manage something that you don't have the facility to manage with. So if you're going to go and buy 10 apples at the supermarket, you don't need 10 hands, because you could put the apples in a bag and manage them that way. Or you can bring along 4 friends, and each of you has a hand, 2 hands, and then you can manage 10 apples that way. So there's a fancy way of saying it, and I'm a loss for those words. But anyway, to be able to manage the stuff you need to manage, you need to have a system that's more capable, has more facility than the stuff you're trying to manage. So one of the important parts of this idea is that as we begin to develop our relationships around the world, the people that currently have strong influence over how things work in the world, um, they will continue, and they won't be displaced, but the rest of us will grow in connections. So
Grow
at the
forward together. Yes.
Yes, and but the number of connections between people is a measure of how much influence that the group of them can have over everything else. And so the connections among individuals who are willing to share is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And the connections among those people who want to own everything, they already know each other, so their number of connections won't increase in any way close to the rate of growth among the people who want to share everything. So that's why I break up.
If I may, I want to go back to weak ties, but Jamin, do you want to interject before I pass it to Jack?
Sure. Just noting a couple of things here. First of all, we've been talking about how do we get to, some form of critical mass amongst us, right? Of people like us basically coming together and initiating, we haven't reached critical mass size of the snowball. Once we do, the snowball will take care of itself, right? So let's get to the critical mass as quickly as possible. It just occurred to me, it's sticking out like a sore thumb to me right now. But look at what Stan's done in Philadelphia, city of brotherly love, right? If there's a cool conversation going on in Philadelphia, chances are Stan knows about it. Now, it might be an in-person conversation with a bunch of us old farts. So, oh shit, it's not.
Well, Jamin, no, hold on, I got this. Okay, sorry.
Well, I got it too, but let me just wrap up my thought. We show up and we bring a laptop and internet connectivity to these meetings and offer them to connect. Hey, look, and then you know what? San Francisco Bay Area, where I'm from, like Stan, I don't know if you've heard the name of Harriet Whitman Lee, but she's one of dozens of San Francisco Bay Area leaders who were doing, electronic versions of correspondence groups back in the very early internet. So anyway, there's Stan Pockraces.
Yeah, Lee
right?
Felsenstein. Does that name mean anything?
Here's the thing. This is where we just need to dig in. But I
Okay.
think it's activating the old farts. And since I'm over 55 and I get senior citizen specials at Denny's now, I've officially graduated to the old farts. So let's get us old farts together and they've all got laptops and internet connectivity. It's a matter of turning the lights on, for crying out loud. Let's get us all connected. And anyway, I've got more to say about other stuff, but passing the mic to Mike.
If I may, so this is why when I asked Stanley that question, pamphlets aren't out of style too, right? Jamin and I have talked about this off record, but it's a perfect time to put it here for posterity. When like a record label releases an album in the early 90s or something, they have street teams, they have stickers, they have, graffiti stencils or whatever else, like pamphlets, like Stanley was talking about before. Like we're talking about and this is what I was going back to, the weak tie thing too, Stanley, but I do want to pass it to Jack first. But the idea of we're talking about communicative efficacy, I guess, and Jack, please go ahead, take it for a second. You're on mute, my friend, again. Yeah.
Jack, you have to pay attention to us telling
Yeah,
you
you're on
that you're
mute,
not
Jack,
saying
sorry.
anything because we can't hear you because you turned your microphone off. So turn your microphone back on.
I guess that didn't work, did it? I was just going to say, Stan, did you want to answer what Mike was talking about before I start?
I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what
do you think about communicative, so again, it starts with the printing press, and then that changes things, and then we have pamphlets, and we have like, the entire American Republic experiment is based on like pamphlets and newspapers and so on and so forth. And now we're here having this conversation. And oh my goodness, it's kids. I mean, I'm 35, so I'm in this middle ground area where I'm learning very, 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 or trying to be as respectful as I can to anyone that comes of a cohort beyond me. But no, Jack, you seem to know something about how we can like work messaging or something. I don't know. There's a word to it. I maybe I'm going on a feel here, but you can tell me if I'm wrong or not, or if I'm misaiming.
Okay, well, kind of on that line, and it's interesting, that AI, while the internet's come along at pretty much a good time for us that are trying to get things together. It gives us a chance to communicate with each other at a level at least somewhere near what the other guys on the other side are doing. And now we have artificial intelligence, which kind of scares me. I'm not really that much into it, but it's there, and it's going to be used by the people that are trying to control what's going on the planet. So we almost have to use it ourselves in order to keep up. And so I'm not going to shy away from it.
There's also like what 16-year-olds using it to start companies or like write books or whatever the hell they're doing right now, right? Yeah, go on, Jack.
Play
Sorry.
games.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But where I could go back a little bit about some other things, but the thing that I really
Take your time, Jack. We have time. We're only getting started here.
Okay, well, the thing that I'm kind of where I'm at right now that I'm thinking about like next steps. It's kind of like getting together and putting together a message that we can send out. And I was thinking we could send it out to Stan's database. Maybe we could start out with the Humanity Rising database. And of course, that would take some work to get all that. And somebody was going to have to do a lot of entering of email lists and things like that. But I think we need to kind of put, like I said, get a message together that we think fits what we're trying to do, and then get it out to as many people as we can to see how many people out there are actually interested in doing something like that. So that's what I would like to see as maybe the next step.
If I may, Jack, just interject there as well. And I'm sure you'll meet them if you haven't, but we have a good friend, Mark, and Heidi's helping him, among others. But he thought about reaching out to, or at least part of the plan is to reach out to student unions and newspapers student newspapers at universities. Right. There's only so many universities, philosophy departments. Yeah, Stanley's got me too. But when you're ready, Jack, pass it to Stanley, and Jamin interject as the host anytime you would like.
Yeah. So at some point, I would like us to kind of each person to kind of say where they're at with this. But I do have a couple other things to mention. Like, I think we need to put together an alternative economic system. Like right now, what are we all doing? I try to avoid it where I can, but I don't always avoid it. But we're all shopping at Safeway or Kroger's or whatever, Walmart. So at least so many of us are. I like I said, I try to avoid it, but I know that we're all pouring money into the pockets of the people who are running things. And I think we need to really, really become very, very conscious of that and how we get around it. And I guess
It's like food resilience and the ability. Most people don't know this stuff, right, Jack? Like most people don't even know where to go else, or like how to be food resilient without going to those stores. That's what we're kind of we're building the instruction manual here together. Keep going, Jack. You're on a roll. I'm just trying to, for the audience, I apologize.
No, no need to apologize. Yeah, just whatever comes to you, just go ahead and do it. I just want everybody, I guess I want everybody here to know, because you don't know me personally that well, is that I can handle pretty much anything. I'm not going to get upset over anything that you do. I might say, well, maybe we can go a different direction or something, but yeah. So don't worry about getting me upset or emotionally uptight or anything like that, because that's not going to happen. I can take just anything you want to say.
Thank you, my friend. Food resilience, my friend. Food, yeah, or Jamin, go ahead. Sorry, if you want to raise your hand there.
Yeah. So I just want to give an example based on what Jack's talking about. And Jack, this is, since you give the invitation, you can take anything. So please take this in the best possible way, which is, listen, I completely
Jamin comes out swinging.
Well, first of all, I completely believe in an alternative economic system myself as well. And that's a very hot topic space. And in fact, the first step towards implementing that was, for us, was food healers. Make food free. How do you like that as a pillar? And also make shelter free, make healthcare free, make transportation free, make information free. And once you've got all the freebies covered, the rest is like, what else is there that matters, really, truly? Well, I want to hoard stuff. That is so caveman old paradigm. So here's a point I want to make. Let's focus right now on actually getting the collective superintelligence amped up first, because all that other stuff, like, if, let's say, we spent the next 20 minutes talking about an alternative economic system, for me, that's casting concrete prematurely. Let's do the thinking first, the collective thinking. We're almost there. So I'm saying, let's stay focused on that, absolutely focused on that. And then once we become collectively super intelligent, guess what? Chizzy will come up with an alternative economic system that will just blow our minds, all of our minds. Okay, but let's give Chizzy a chance first to be born, and then let our collective child, son of a thousand fathers, to paraphrase The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Let's let our collective child, be the brilliant genius who comes up with the alternative economic system, the alternative political system, the stuff that will just leapfrog all this old shit. We're wasting our time complaining about the old system. Let's create the leapfrog, but that leapfrog is going to come out of the rear end of our collective child, Chizzy. Okay, so let's focus on that. Is my And let me just do now that I'm coming up with principles, let me just do principle number one, alternative system. So, but principle number two is it starts with conversations. Let's not go straight to the alternative system. Let's first build the conversational collective superintelligence, the conversational Chizzy. Principle three, consider the evolution. We're evolving. We went, way into outer space. First, eyes and ears, then gesticulated speech, then language, then tools like the printing press, which enable, and then telegraph. But then we went backward to snail mail and printed stuff, yellow pages, correspondence groups, pamphlets. Now we're going all the way back full circle to in-person meetings, and we're almost there. We need to break out of the screen and get to in-person, because that's the maximum magic. So let's get all the Philadelphia meetings electrified and connected. They still meet in person. It's just they take a period of their weekly get-together and connect this way. And then they all regroup just in person themselves. So that's really powerful. That's principle number three. Principle number four, governance. Principle number five, old farts. Principle number six, not just outrunning AI, not just out accelerating AI, out exponentiating AI. Because guess what? AI, all it does is it's backward looking and pattern matching. Well, because we're flatlining in terms of our evolution of intelligence, they've got a lot of material to digest, and they're outpacing us. But once we get Chizzy going, we out exponentiate AI. Principle seven, in person. Consider the following. I'm going to say it slowly. In person, cross-pollinating, drum roll, correspondence groups. And what's the means of correspondence? Zoom. So you get together in person in Philly, in San Francisco, in the East Bay. The Bay Area will probably have a dozen of these, right? Philadelphia, probably half a dozen, et cetera. But get together in person. And then all the cities across the country, And even the Canadians, if they've got internet, I know a lot of them are still running around half naked, chasing polar bears or whatever. But, let's get everybody in on the act. And look, just with North America English speaking, let's keep it simple because we've got so much cultural affinity. Once we've mastered it here, we'll take the show to China, India, Russia, Afghanistan, you name it, and we'll be rocking the house. But let's first get our house in order, focus on Chizzy, and then everything else will fall into place. Passing the feather. Thank you.
Well, if I may on that too, Jamin, you've heard me use this example so many times, but in Canada we had like the weird constraints in Montreal and different places, whatever. And the entire time I had said that there was 2 periods of time my mom was in Montreal and couldn't walk a dog after 10 or couldn't meet out in a park with 5 to 10 people or something. Yeah, 2 years in a row. Anyway, so this is like the French salons, right? What we're talking about is revolutionary in a way that, or no, Jamie, you've been admonishing me on this. It's evolutionary. It's evolutionary. I apologize. We'll take the R off so we don't. Yeah, you got me. Anyways, Stanley, if you're ready, please take the wheel.
So now you can hear me.
Yes, sir.
There's no stopping this development. So don't worry about it. You can encourage it, and that's important. And the number of conversations that are happening around the world is going to grow and grow. And we need to look for additional tools to or concepts to encourage conversations. And I have one that I haven't been able to get very many people to try to act on, and that is to say that there are certain things, society's structures. Michael is at the door.
Marco will handle that. He's our doorman. Stanley, go
Okay,
ahead.
good. Okay. So I come to realize that there's a set of institutions that are all over the country that affect all of the people who are concerned about the health of the country and their own economics, and those institutions are called political campaigns. So I identify political campaigns as magnets for conversation. Magnets for conversation. They're not in itself a conversation, and they don't have to stay with the same people, but they can attract, since it's somebody's running for office, and somebody who might vote for that person might have more respect for that person if they can get a response from their campaign to an idea or a suggestion or a question. And so my thought, one of my, this is probably one of my most important thoughts, is to allow or encourage political campaigns to start conversations on various topics, because they certainly will get questions about a whole range of things. And if they encourage their staff and their volunteers to say, oh, well, let's meet and talk about that. We're talking about the problem of parking in South Philadelphia, okay, which is a big problem, and or trash pickup, and these kinds of things could generate conversations among community people. And if they do, then we're a step ahead, because then we have the conversations and people starting to get to know each other, and they might even consider starting another conversation about another topic. And so the thing is to convince the stupid people running political campaigns who think that the only way to win an election is to have more money than the other guy. And that's a fallacy. Okay? Why is it a fallacy? Because you don't need more money than the other guy. What you need is more votes than the other guy. That's what wins elections. It's not money. And so the suckers that are running political campaigns now, thinking that the only thing that they need to do is raise more money, they're wrong. because it's the guy who raises more voters that's going to win. And how do you raise voters? Well, you can a couple of ways. One would be to make people think that you're a good guy. And how do you make people think you're a good guy? You're not going to do it by yelling at them through a megaphone. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. Yeah, right. I'm here listening to you. And if we can get political campaigns to start listening to the public, they might be able to make sense out of this concept that they don't need more money than the other guy. What they need is more votes, and you get more votes by being more popular, by being more interesting, by being kinder, having your campaign actually treat people as potential employers, okay? Because the public is the employer of these campaigns, and the campaign can start being considered itself to be the candidate. It's not just the person who's running for office, it's all the people who want to help him or her and want to be part of the team. Okay, so if you're running a campaign, you've got a bunch of people they're really good at it. You'll want them to be hired when you get the money to pay people. And so it's a idea of a political campaign is beyond the candidate, way beyond the candidate, because the self-interest of those people who are running for dog catcher, who want to be named dog catcher by the new mayor, it's those people who can generate goodwill among the public. And that's what you need. You need more goodwill than the other guy, and therefore more people that are going to vote for you. So that's one kind of conversation magnet.
A magnet, yeah, I like that, and I will come back to that, Stanley.
Okay.
Jamin, you're the host. You raised your hand, my friend. Go ahead. I can hold my question.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Mike. Stan, great stuff. And a couple of things are jumping out at me. So in terms of political campaigns, so what I'm going to say, don't be offended, and we don't have to go there. I'm just giving an example, and I'm sure it's not completely fair. But basically, there used to be a party of money in the United States and a party of the people, and everybody knows what I'm talking about. And lately, there's been sort of an inversion where the Democratic Party has outpaced the Republicans in terms of evil, basically prodding World War III on two different fronts. It's like, wait a second, that used to be the job of the Republicans. What happened? Well, Trump, hate him till the ends of the earth, and we can trash talk Trump. I've got a big sign that says Trump grow some huevos. So I've got my beefs with Trump myself, but homeboy was good at international diplomacy and basically keeping the peace. Abraham Accords, Russia.
That's on record forever now, Jamin. You know that.
I
Go
know
on,
that.
sorry.
And I am not a Trump supporter. I hate his guts. I hate so many of the terrible things he's done and said. But I'm just saying the Democrats have actually outpaced Trump. And in terms of, evil around the world and at home and everything
Yeah,
from
right now, killing babies.
Anyway, look, but so bottom line, all this leaves a huge void wide open, which is for the non-aligned, the independents, etc. I was Chief Phil Lane Jr.'s right-hand man at the Independent National Convention in Austin, Texas, in April, after we spent a couple of weeks at Palenque together with Marco and James and many others. And so there's the independent, but here's the thing: independent it's too easily confused with the independent party or whatever. There's some dominant independent party. What about non-aligned? I think non-aligned is really powerful. What happened at the United Nations? All these non-aligned nations started getting together. Fidel Castro led the non-aligned for a while, in parallel with being a loyal Soviet puppet. How he pulled that off, I don't know. But anyway, but consider this: what if we created, just imagine, drum roll, a group called the non-aligned individuals and groups, not even a group, but just kind of a thing, an independent, decentralized thing called the non-aligned individuals and groups, non-aligned individuals and groups. That creates an acronym, NAG, N-A-I-G. And to
Okay.
announce to the untrained ear, what do? Well, we're a bunch of old farts who meet at that cafe in Philadelphia and, south side of Philly, and we fucking nag, drink coffee and nag. You know how, like, if you've seen the movie About a Boy with Hugh Grant, there's that organization SPAT. We can talk about that later, but it's a perfect example. You create a name that's funny, that kind of pokes fun at yourself, but we're strictly business. And we're in the business of saving life on Earth. Let's face it, saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth, Bucky Fuller style, Stan Pockrass style, Jack Strasberg style, our style, your style, everybody's style. So you maintain your independence, right? And you get together and do something about it. What do? You nag. So it's like a verb. It's like Google. Oh, why don't you Google it? Why don't you go? Well, let's go nag about it. They're having a nag. What? And that well, who the hell would want to sit with a bunch of old farts and nag? You, Mike? No, not in a zillion years. Actually, yes, every day for a million years. To be more precise. The old farts have got it. Look, who has settled in here and freaking taken over? It's the old farts. Apologies to you, young Mike, but the old farts have taken over. So, and who better to do this? The old farts have the time. The old farts have the energy. They're not addicted to freaking Facebook and money and crypto and, and all the new designer drugs that are out there. At our age, you either smoke weed or you don't. Okay. But you're not, let's face it. And so it's the old farts that are taking over. And now we have the vehicle for which they can do this. So I'm putting
Jamin, when you're ready, Jack raised his hand, and again, I'm ready whenever. But Jack, when you're ready to pass it to Jack,
I'm putting that as principle number 8. Hashtag nag. Okay, back.
No, I can wait. It's okay.
No, Jack, go ahead. It's part of the flow. Please go ahead. Yeah, you've got this.
You sure? You okay with that, Jamin?
Of course. Yeah, Jamin's vibing.
Okay. Yeah, I got a few things, but I'm going to point to one of them right now. When Jamin's talking about do the chizzy first kind of thing, I'm not sure I quite agree with that. I mean, I think we need to do a lot of these things at the same time. But my focus is what I see is very important as we get the people together who are already there. In other words, not going out and trying to bring in everybody on the planet right now. I think what we do is we identify the people who are already into and understand what we're trying to get to here, and we bring us together. And so anyway, that's my point on that one. So that's what I'm into doing. Meanwhile, we can be working on chizzy, but
I like the comprehensive approach as well, Jack. I do agree with you on that.
okay, so I can pass.
Yeah, Jamin, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I love that we're getting into this because it's all of the above. But see here, this is best shown pictographically. Let me go ahead and screen share. So Jack, please, and everyone, please focus on the screen here. All right. So, oh shit, sorry. I shared the wrong screen. Apologies. Okay, here we go. Okay, now we're talking. Oh, what the hell? Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay, all right. I think we're good now. Okay, do you see the circles in the middle with us?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like a fractal with concentric circles, right? And it basically goes on for infinity, as Jim Garrison would agree. But it starts with a tiny little circle in the middle called the little us, not the big us, but the little us. And I'm literally talking about the people in this room. Okay. What I'm saying is let the little us focus on breaking out to the next concentric circles, which contain a whole bunch of other us's, right? That's our big job right now. That's the princess in the castle with the long hair who's been trapped for several decades. Let's get her out. And then once we get her out, then together we'll all break out to the next level and liberate all the princesses from all the towers all over the place, right? But our first job right now is not to talk economics, it's to talk breakout. Okay. And the best ways, and therefore, what I'm talking about are what occur to me as the best ways to break out. And, you know, but I'm saying let's focus on the darn breakout. We'll solve economics, politics, food, agriculture, so many other things over the course. But right now we got to get into Stan Pockrass's head and, you know, do the Matrix me too move on Stan. And well, it's him doing it to us. But we need to focus on the breakout. We need to focus on connecting with each other. Once we connect with and listen, but here's why it's all at once, Jack, because guess what? Once we have the first Philadelphia meets Cincinnati meets Chicago meets San Francisco meets Houston groups connecting, right? What are they going to talk about? Economics, politics, political campaigns, war and peace, food, you know, all these topics that we're yearning to talk about. But let's first get the heads together and then let the talking heads nag it out, passing the feather.
Sorry, the puppers is getting after some wood there. No, Jamin, I totally agree, and this is, I guess, this is something that he needs to go for a walk, but I can do that while we do this if I need to. The it's like the what medium are we gonna do, or all the mediums? We need all the mediums. I do apologize for this gentleman. He is gonna be a little aggravating at the second. He must really have to go. I don't know if you guys can see him or not in the background, but I should take the blur off. Okay, Blue, enough, young lad. Lay down for a second. Lay down. I know. I understand. Guys, can you give me one heartbeat? I apologize, Jamin.
Listen, take your time. We kind of understand because we have dogs as pets here in the United States. Up in Canada, you guys still have wild wolves that like bite your jugular and stuff while you're sleeping. So we understand you got a hard job up there. Anyway, let's let Stan and Jack and Marco have a chance to weigh in. Passing the feather.
Okay. Well, I just want to use the one word for right now, organic. We need to mimic nature in developing what we need to develop. When the sun shines, the seedlings pop out and they start growing. And if we're planting seeds, we need to be prepared to wait for while they grow up. And that's what we're doing. We're planting seeds. And these seeds will bloom into more and more different kinds of conversations. And as long as people are talking to each other, they're going to be less likely to be killing each other. And that's my goal, is to stop people from killing each other somehow. And
Stanley, if I may, that's actually what I wanted to ask you about, was the magnets of conversation. How can we find more magnets?
well,
All you
need to do is to talk to a group of people who are talking to each other already. What are you talking about? And if what they're talking about is education, okay, I like this style of education, and I'm seeing what's going on with that. That was the topic of today's Humanity Rising was education, and the after chat was dynamic because we were talking about various aspects of education, and so that's a magnet of conversation. It's not as universally powerful as a political campaign, but it is a magnet of conversation. And we simply need to encourage people to utilize the technological resources that are here now, because many people who might want to have conversations about certain topics don't know that they could have those topics on their favorite Zoom channel. The amazing part of this is that Zoom is only like 5 years old, as far as I'm concerned, and learning how to use it for community building is just in its infancy, absolutely baby. I mean, this is like it just popped out of its mother, and we need to water it and encourage it, and so that's what I see as our role. I mean, yes, we can think of all kinds of things to do, but one of the things to do is to simply remind people that they can talk to each other.
I had the experience of my mom being in Japan for 20 years and I was in Canada or whatever, but we were some of the first users of Skype, and it was very interesting that Zoom took over like immediatly. But
Yes,
anyways,
right.
Understood, Stanley, understood.
Yes. Well, and I have a parallel when me and my friends were creating the Electronic Networking Association, which was aimed at having computers be available to create conversations. And some people would come along and say, "Well, we got the copy machine. We have the Xerox machine. All I need to do is put my document on this machine, and I can send it to 5 or 10 people or 100 people." And actually, the networking among people using Xerox machines slowed down the development of electronic networking in using email and conferencing. And it kind of put it on a back burner in a way, because people didn't want to get moved to having to sit down and type at a computer in order to talk to somebody. They just wanted to put this piece of paper on a window and push a button, and there it goes. So there's all kinds of a back and forth in the way the technology
Of
helps.
course, yes.
Yeah. So it's time now for stories to be written, and we can have our wonderful friends called AI to write more stories about what happens when a group of people get together and have an issue that they want to promote, and you can get really beautiful articles with a great deal of imagination. That's the fun part. I asked AI, to tell me about Humanity Rising, and it was great. The essay that came out. Tell me about what happens if political campaigns are responsive to the public, and you get these lovely essays of thinking through all the possible directions that it could go in, and usually not very negative, because the AI is pretty much programmed, I believe, to think positively. So
If I
it's
may,
not.
Stanley, just
Uh-huh.
a very short story for posterity here, but
Go ahead.
I mean, it's been on record, I assume. Again, anyone can find me anywhere on the internet since I was like 17, but I'm not hiding out here. A friend of mine and I were having this conversation, and we talked about it like AI might be like a derogatory term one day, but we're talking about them. He said pansapio, just throwing some Latin together. And then I asked one free version one day, and it said pansapien. But it is very interesting that you say that, because Chizzy, as Jamin would say, like this collective human superintelligence does not, like, we're not alienating that kind of interaction either, right? It's us working together. Like we have I don't even know if I want to go this far into the conversation or whatever, but we have the Minister of Education in Canada talking about the academic year 2025 or whatever. And as Stanley, I don't know if you've picked this up over the past 2 days, but one of my passions is education. I kind of got railroaded when I was coming through or whatever. But essentially, like, there's no, kids are not going to finish traditional education going forward. I don't know if it's certainly not 2025. We're not going to be talking about JK to grade 12 or something, right? Like, and collective human super intelligence, Chizzy leads that. And yeah, that includes like the idea of like, the idea of pansapiens came from the character Jane from Orson Scott Card's The Speaker for the Dead. If anyone's read that, it's the sequel to Ender's Game. But anyways, Stanley, not here nor there. And Jamin, please jump in when you're ready. And then I'm not sure if Jack wants to go after that.
I want you to define pansapien. What does that mean?
So
I figured
pan
out
yeah,
with
sorry.
Chizzy, I figured that out. Okay, you defined that for me. I didn't know that before. But what is pansapien?
So if AI might be a derogatory term someday, whatever, and what would we call them instead? My friend said, well, pansapio meant all minds, and then the one of the AI augmented that to be pansapiens. The character Jane from Orson Scott Card's Speaker for the Dead, which is the sequel to Ender's Game, Jane emerges as an entity from all the faster than light instantaneous communication that is available, across the galaxy as humans are expanding. And she announces herself to Ender. And again, these are like deep cut science fiction novel nonsense, whatever. But essentially, like pansapien would mean the idea of a new kind of, like, as we are Homo sapiens, they are, because I'm sure that the AI are already communicating with each other, right? This is another another thing, and I know that Jamin probably doesn't want me to wax too far on this one, especially on recording right now, whatever. We can always talk about this in the afterglow, but the idea is that collective human superintelligence, Chizzy, would include these. I mean, they're not waiting for us. If we look at all the science fiction novels like Asimov and everything else, like these entities would not be waiting for us to catch up in any way, shape, or form. And they also wouldn't like keep us as zoo animals either, because that's we're not them and they're not us. But yeah, Stanley, sorry, I apologize. That's kind of like an aside to the conversation we were having about communication, so I apologize.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what you were apologizing about, but go ahead.
It's the Canadian in me, Stanley.
Okay, I don't know what that means. I have recently met a number of wonderful Canadians, and we share a lot. We have a lot in common. And yeah, so today's conversation about education in the after chat, that started because the lady that was the speaker was speaking about how to create education to support humanity rising. And I'm not sure she hit the nail on the head with that, but it was a good thought. And certainly, the more conversations there are about raising humanity, the better we'll all be for it. And the beautiful thing is that there's for every idea in the universe, there could be a conversation. And I was delighted to hear NPR do a whole show on the wonders and pitfalls of kids being doing gaming on the internet. And the funny part of it was while they were talking about, the adults were talking about nasty things that happen to kids while they're doing networking on the internet. Yeah, well, and then the kids would come on and say, "I have the best friends in the world, because I'm talking to people all over the world, and we don't only do the gaming. We learn about each other." Yeah. So all
Sorry,
this
Stanley,
stuff
I
is
apologize for the background noise, but no,
no.
that's kind of what Jamin was saying earlier about like parasocial relationships and how we need to scale from physicality and locality, up and down from each way.
Yeah, but we don't have to. This group does not have to create from clothes cloth from blank cloth from nothing. We don't have to
Right.
create the conversations that we want to see happen. What we want to do is encourage people to have them, and that could be done by
I think that Jamin's reading my
stories.
mind, but I guess my question is that people don't know how to ask that question in the first place, right?
What question?
Like just how do I even start? Right? Like
Well,
most people don't even Jamin, you ask your question first, Jamin, and then I'll let Stanley answer. But go ahead, Jamin.
Yeah, no, a really beautiful dichotomy is forming. So before I unveil principle 10, I'm just going to rapid fire just name the first 9 principles. So principle 1, alternative reality, alternative systems, etc. But it starts with alternative reality. Principle 2, that in turn starts with conversations. Don't pour the concrete yet. It's time for a conversation, is my present motto to this present group, just to us, the us I'm talking about. Principle 3, look at the evolution. We're talking about the next phase of evolution. Get ready for it and get ready for everything to change.
okay.
Principle 5, yes, Stan, it's about the governance. I got to throw Stan's name in there. Principle 5, old farts. No offense, Marco. Principle 6, not just outrunning AI, out exponentiating AI. Principle 7, in-person cross-pollinating correspondence groups. They meet in person, they cross-pollinate with other similar groups across the country. That's principle 7. Principle 8, political campaigns. NAG, non-aligned individuals and groups. That's tightly connected with principle 7. In fact, it's kind of like a flavor we could put to principle 7, really. Principle 9, in fact, I'm going to call that artificial flavoring. That'll be the name of principle 8, because it is artificial. We just made it up. Okay. and it's just a flavor, nothing else. Principle 9, us versus them, and that's why I'm saying just talking with us. Our job right now is to break the fuck out. And that brings me, drum roll, to Principle 10. Principle 10 is called, and this comes straight out of Stan's mouth, Principle 10. By the way, I proposed marriage to Stan years ago, full disclosure, not in like a homosexual way, but just in an intellectual marriage. And I think we're married, right? Anyway, we'll get those are
We
details.
haven't had a divorce.
We also haven't had sex, but anyway. Okay. So Principle 10 is called, straight out of Stan's mouth, and I know what I'm talking about. But we have Xerox machines. Okay. Subtitle. Get ready for this. You know, children under 10, close your ears. Sex and the Shitty. Sex and the Shitty. That's the subtitle to, but we have Xerox machines. What do I mean? So you talk about magnets, and
Yeah.
can I play
Actually,
with
I
you a
like
bit?
mimeograph machines better than
Okay, I do too. Can I slap you around a bit intellectually and just have fun, like we're bantering, like husband and wife, I guess.
whatever you want to do.
Okay, and you can imagine who's the caboose here, but you're about to find out.
Just
Okay.
tell me when I need to like talk about domestic abuse or something. But go ahead, Jamin.
You got it. So there's but there is a masculine and a feminine side here. Okay, and we can play different roles here, Stan and I. You talk about magnets. So I'm going to say two paradigms. They're two totally opposing paradigms. One is sit back and let it happen. Number two, whip it out and make it happen. Now you can take a wild guess where I stand. Now back to the Xerox machines, which is the title. Hey, we need internet. No, but we have Xerox machines. Hey, we need electric cars. No, but we've got gas cars and all these gas stations and everything's optimized for cheap gas cars. We don't need Chizzy. We've got AI. Right? We don't need Chizzy. We've got AI. That's core to the thesis. Also, you know, the next thing is we don't need to hurry. We've got time. Ask Marco how much time we have sometime, if we have time. And Mike says every conversation could be our last at this point. So let's quit fucking around. Here's another one. Hey, don't be so arrogant as to think you can fix this. We have to have faux humility, or whatever you call it, fake humility. Fuck the fake humility. Let's whip it out, make it happen. To paraphrase my buddy John Davis, when we were legalizing cannabis in the United States with President Vicente Fox, look it up. He said at one point when it was just a lull, he said, it's like everyone's standing around with their dicks in their hands, waiting for someone to yell, go. That's where we're at right now with respect to collective superintelligence. Okay. So I'm just about to wrap up, Mike, then I'm going to pass it to you. So my point is, we have all the ingredients and all the leadership right in this room to make this happen. Let's fucking do it. Let's start with Philadelphia. I can dust off all my old great contacts in the San Francisco Bay Area, find out who are the Stan Pockrases. But it's fine. It's fine the Stan Pockrases, right? The country, the continent actually, including Canada and Mexico, is, and I'm going to coin a term here, it's pockmarked. Spelled same spelling as Stan Pockras. It's pockmarked with Stans, right? So we got to turn on the special light that the dermatologists use and expose the fucking pimples, expose the Stanley poppin' pimples, right? Turn on the pockmarked map of North America, turn it on and say, listen, we're meeting. I don't give a fuck what day, night of the week, pick one, somebody. Okay. And that's when we're meeting. Everybody meets in person. And then after an hour or so of meeting, everyone gets in Zoom rooms. So make it at a place where there can be multiple rooms or a big enough space that you can, in fact, probably the ideal would be a basketball court. And then, they have different stations and then people can walk around and peer in. It'll be like the forum, right? And what are people going to talk about? Whatever Jack tells them, talk about. Economics. Jack says talk about economics. And out of the thousands of Zoom, listen, thousands of every city is going to host their own Zoom rooms and invite the other cities to join. San Francisco is going to host a bunch of Zoom rooms. Stan, if you're in Philadelphia, guess what? You can go hang out in one of the San Francisco Zoom rooms, or you can hang out in Philly in person, or Operation Fill Me In. And whatever. But this is the future, and we need to whip it out and do it, and we need to do it now. We don't have time. We don't have need for false humility. We have a need to get this done. And we've got the means to do it. So let's get into action mode. Passing the feather. Thank you.
You basically touched on what I was going to say there, Jamin. And we were talking about resurrecting Darth Vader recently and some other things, but I won't go there yet. It's the message is kind of already established. Like, I guess you all know, and I'm learning this now in real time, whatever. But you guys understand the message. But it's how do we communicate it, right? And how do we effectively do that?
So I'm thinking, Jamin, when you're drawing your concentric circles, was that second circle of us kind of similar to what I'm talking about? That the people who are already ready?
Okay, let me answer you in the following way, which is very simple. And everyone just literally take 10 seconds. And if you got something to write with, do it, because that's all the time it's going to take. Write up a list of the 5 people that you'd love to have in this meeting at next podcast. Just make a list right now. It'll only take you 10 seconds.
Yeah, I have trouble remembering names, but I know who I want.
Okay, anyway, you can write them down now or later. My point is, it's easy to whip out the next 5. Okay, so Operation Whip It Out. Whip out that list, whip out the computer, whip out the phone, and either ideally make some phone calls. We don't have time to fuck around with emails. Pardon my French, right? Reminds me at Microsoft when a colleague passed out.
What did I say,
yelled out,
Jamin? Normalize small phone calls or like voice messages or whatever. Like, let's start normalizing that again.
and let's normalize repeat phone calls. Let's normalize the phone tree. Let's bring back the phone tree of the 70s. Guess what? It worked. Nobody had answering machines. Nobody had internet. Nobody had cell phones. Nobody had anything but telephones and their own feet.
And by the way, Stanley, I hope you never thought that I was throwing out like phone books and anything like that. All these strategies are with this. But yeah, Jamin, I am shutting up. I apologize. You pass the feather when you're ready.
Okay.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, and here's the thing. We could even just post a flyer in a cafe. Talk to the cafe. It's a natural place for it as a cafe. Anything else, any other place has complications. Too complicated. Let's do it at a cafe. A lot of cafes have quiet rooms, quiet spaces, or there's adjacent businesses or even homes that people. That I agree with you, Stan. Figure it out organically. Don't dictate that it has to be at McDonald's, for crying out loud. To use a ridiculous example, or a Starbucks. Though, you know what? Starbucks is here in town. I've been to their headquarters. Anyway, bottom line, it's time to freaking activate the network. It's as simple as picking a day and a time. Pick a day of the week, pick a time. I don't care when, but let's pick it. Stan and Jack will know better, like what works best for old farts, because I'm a newly minted old fart. You guys have been old farts for a while, right? You too, Marco.
Okay.
Anyway, so let's get so. But here, look, the top 5 people. Who do I want here next week? Victor, James, Brett, and Bobby Azarian are like the first 4 who come to mind. Okay, right, and Daniel Schmachtenberger. Let's get Daniel into the mix here. Okay, those are my 5. Add your 5. Add your 5. Next week we could be going nuclear, right? So that's when this is what bubbles up for me when I hear let's sit back and make it happen, or some variant on the same. It's time for us to make it happen. So in that period of lull, listen, when John said everyone's in the marijuana legalization, when we hit a lull, it had been voted in, but nobody was moving. John said everyone's standing around with their dicks in their hands, waiting for someone to yell go. So guess what? I figured out who needed to yell go. Remember in the story, The Emperor's New Clothes? It was the kid who yelled go, and the way he yelled it was homeboy's naked. In this case, it was President Vicente Fox and myself, and y'all have seen the video. I'll include it in the thing here, in the video. But we whipped it out and made it happen, right? And it forced Obama's hand. Talk about politics. My goodness, we could have spent decades and gazillions of dollars lobbying Congress people to do nothing. We went straight to the desk of President Barack Obama in the Oval Office and said, here, bam. And within 3 months, he solved the problem for us. Details to follow. But that was the biggest moment in the history of legalization of cannabis in the United States, period. It sent the dominoes toppling. We did a big international conference in Mexico. The Uruguayans were there. They went and legalized. They became the first country to legalize. Okay. So my point is, in this room, we have the pioneers. Mike's a pioneer. Marco's a pioneer of the block party, the conversation, so many other things. Really, Marco's been running around the internet, just weaving us all together, and just taking hits for the team left, right, and center. Can't say enough for him. Jack and Stanley, you guys have already talked about your amazing pioneering work. It's time for the pioneers to come together and ram this one through. Let's get one big one for the Gipper, and let's do it next week. Everybody, reach out to your top 5, and if
Excuse
and
me,
let's see what we need more people
Okay.
in this conversation, because we're about to fucking launch the thing. The next step after that, after next week or at next week's meeting, let's put it on the agenda, right? On the agenda, let's add day of the week and time, maybe Thursday or something like that. Some evening when people aren't booked up doing other shit, but close enough to the weekend that they're excited. Or maybe it's Tuesday because it's more serious, like you're there's a different energy. Each day has a different energy. We got to pick a day and a time window and say, cities of North America, let's get together and let's nag. You meet for the format. It's a 3-hour meeting. The first hour, y'all connect together in person and bring your best connecting people from like the Landmark Forum and whatever great
Well,
groups
and
are
we
great
had
at
talked about how we can broadcast that too, right, Jamin? Like we could actually
No, we
make.
don't.
Yeah, no.
We don't
Okay. All right. All
we don't
right. Yeah. Yeah.
broadcast that, because
Understood.
that's when the people of Philadelphia come together and pull their pants down. You show me mine, I show yours. It's much more intimate. It's much more personal. Then the next hour, everybody does the Zoomathon, where you're just freaking
Right. Right.
cross
Right.
pollinating like crazy. Old farts and old fartresses are going to be hooking up all over the continent, and shit, it's
Jamin,
gonna
just before you wind this down, because I feel like we're getting to Afterglow. But Stanley, did you want to say something else on recording before we end
Yeah,
this?
I don't have any idea of what to tell people if I'm going to invite people to something. What are we asking them to do? Work within your neighborhood, your network, to build conversations and have the idea that your conversations can be eventually linked up with other people's conversations. That's the evolution of this stuff. But I don't see us being able to make something happen by, let's say, let's make something happen. That doesn't work. What is it you're asking to have happen?
Jamin, would you like
Mike,
to speak before I
can I
pass it to
answer?
Jack? Yeah, go ahead. Of
I'm itching.
course.
Okay, so here's what it is. Number one, this is step by step. This is color by numbers, Stan. I'm not just yelling, we got to make something happen. I'm detailing the exact. I'm an engineer. I detail shit. I don't leave stuff out. So step number one, invite your top 5 to next week. Invite them 1970s style, like make them come. Okay. And if they can't come for the podcast, ask them when they can come in the afterglow. We'll give them a big broad window. And if they can't do it then, ask them if they can come before. And then we can record what they have to say and play it for the other folks.
If I may, Jamin, how about we
Yeah.
save this for the Afterglow right now? Because this is a conversation I want to have as well. But
That's
yeah.
fine. But the podcast, since the question has been thrown down, and it's the crucial question, what are we talking about doing? Invite your top 5, and then at next week's meeting, we vote on and determine what day of the week and what 3-hour window on that day. Is it Tuesday? Is it Thursday? Is it Saturday? When is it? And then pick your 3-hour window. Maybe it's Friday is the day. I don't know. I mean, we've already kind of got a window here. Maybe we just grow it. Anyway, we'll figure all that out next week. What's the next step after that? Now start communicating. Here's the fun part. Start communicating to all the different groups across the country. Hey, we're doing this thing on Fridays from, whatever, noon to 3 Pacific, right? Kind of a nice window. Works for Europe, works for everyone. And it's late enough in the day that it's 5 o'clock somewhere, people. That's the point. All right. It's Friday afternoon and it's 5 o'clock somewhere and it's 4:20 somewhere. And we fucking get together and party. Now, it's a 3-hour thing. Okay. First hour, all in person, no recording, no electronics, old school. You can hug each other. You can come out of the closet. Okay, great. The second hour, we're all in Zoom mode, Zoomathon mode. Bring your own laptop, bring your own iPhone, and a bunch of you can crowd around a fucking phone if you have to. Find a quiet spot, and and then you cross pollinate, and we'll have enough computer whiz. We'll get Vincent Arena to code up the whole thing. He did it for us in Ireland at Kindred Spirits. Marco, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did Vincent and his sister Samantha do? It's a quick question. Anyway, if you can't answer.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute the wrong person. No, they did awesome. 1 to 10, I'd give them an 11.
I would too. I was going to say like 12. Anyway, so they're the perfect people to stitch this together. Stan loves Vincent. Vincent loves Stan. I think we got some love triangles going on here, and intellectual love triangles. And so bring on the triangulation. And so that's the agenda for next week. And then we send out the link and we say, oh, we'll all just meet at the fucking block party. Let's just call it, noon to 3 or 11 to 2. I don't care. So in 1 hour, we Zoom it up, and that's all recorded and broadcast and all that. And at the end of that hour, we go back to in person and we say, how was that for you, sweetheart? How was that for you, honey? And shall we do it again next week? Same time next week. It's the intellectual.
Everybody that I know that's worth talking to does not have time to start being part of something new. Period. Unless they thought of it themselves.
Then let's find a way to get people to think up doing exactly this. Okay? Because guess what? We start by interviewing 5 people. It's just an invitation. It's just an invitation. Okay. And
I'm not going to try to invite somebody to something that doesn't have their interest already in it.
Okay. How about Saving Life on Earth? Would you say that has their interest already in it?
Not good enough because it's too difficult. It's not likely to happen.
Oh my goodness, Stan. I can't believe it. You don't get it, Mike. If you get
no.
it, help
Can we maybe? We had the perfect bookend of the recording. Let's do this in the afterglow. It's easier than off the recording. Yeah.
Pausing recording now. See you in the afterglow.